Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi Achint. Big subject today. Can India trust the Western moves or Western help that is being provided or offered against China? Something that we need to analyze as Indians because a lot of moves are going to be made. Prime Minister Modi Saab is going to America sometime in June and July. India is the president of the SEO and the G20. Lot of things will be happening with regards the India China domain. बहुत कुछ होने वाला है इस जगह में. So I thought let's just do an update of what is happening around. चाइना में क्या क्या न्यूज़ आ रही है, क्या क्या जा रहा है, क्या क्या नहीं है, and let's try and understand whether India should trust the Western moves against China. Now, इस presentation में घुसने से पहले, firstly, this is going to be in Hinglish, so Hindustani, as they say, बात करने वाली भाषा. So I'll be doing English and Hindi both together. It's not going to be pure because I've been getting, when I do in Hindi, people say do in English. When I do in English, people say do in Hindi. So I thought, let me just do it in a mixed bhasha, mixed language. Of course, all the news items which are there on this are going to be in English. तो आप उसमें से पढ़ सकते हैं. And मैं थोड़ा बहुत हिंदी and English में बात करूंगा. इस प्रेजेंटेशन में घुसने से पहले लेट मी जस्ट टेल यू देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन दैट आई हैव कलेक्टेड ओवर द पास्ट वीक. इसमें मैं पूरा हफ्ता ध्यान रखता हूँ क्या हो रहा है, क्या न्यूज़ आ रही है, कैसे एक पिक्चर फॉर्म हो रही है. ये पिक्चर मेरे दिमाग में फॉर्म हुई करीब करीब थर्सडे में, जब मैंने सोचा यार कुछ इसमें निकल रहा है, समथिंग इज कमिंग आउट ऑफ दिस एंड वी नीड टू काइंड ऑफ सी डिग अ लिटिल डीपर. तो उसको थोड़ा इन डेप्थ में पढ़ा है. So let me just get into the presentation. But before I do, guys, please like this video, subscribe if you've not subscribed to the channel. We are sitting at somewhere around 11,600 subscribers. I'm so grateful for all of you to kind of help me and hit the like button. Especially, we are growing pretty well. Okay, it's 11,700 followers. So thanks for that. We had a lovely show with Janal Shankar today in the afternoon where we spoke about the neighborhood. Neighborhood में क्या हो रहा है, बहुत कुछ है. Something that we all again need to understand. India today is in a point of time. हमको बहुत कुछ सोचना है, बहुत कुछ समझना है. And somebody the other day, एक किसी ने कमेंट डाला था जो बड़ा टचिंग था कि I think John Saab, you had put that comment saying that I see Aadi more often than anybody else. Well, sir, sorry if I'm not that pleasing to look at, but anyways, this is important stuff, and I thank you so much, all of you, for joining me. Let's get into the presentation without further time delay. Of course, can India trust the Western moves against China? Modi Saab is thinking. Just a joke. Now, सबसे पहला चीज I want to talk about is that ये जो चाइना का threat है, is it being countered? What is being done around the world with regards countering it? Because थोड़े टाइम से मेरे को ऐसा दिख रहा है कि जो वेस्ट है उसका फोकस सडनली चाइना की तरफ आना शुरू हो गया. काफी सारी मूव्स हुई हैं, स्पेशली विद रिगार्ड्स दिस बलून शलून जो आ गया था, उसमें भी काफी सारी चीजें हुई हैं. ऑफ कोर्स ये बलून को शूट डाउन कर दिया गया काफी टाइम के बाद. आई थिंक F-22 went up and shot it down. There is a whole lot of disparity and a whole lot of confusion which is going around about that particular balloon. So let's get into it. So is the China threat being countered? सबसे पहली चीज हमको देखनी है कि US has secured a deal with regards bases in the Philippines to complete the arc around China. Now US के अगर आप bases देखें, which is in this slide, you will be able to see the bases which are there around the eastern coast of China, which will basically hem the Chinese inside. When I say hem inside, कि भाई उनका जो navy है, it'll be very difficult, very very difficult for the navy. Sorry, just give me a second. Yeah, very difficult for the Chinese navy to kind of get out. Sorry for that distraction. So there are bases that the US have. Of course, South Korea में base है, Japan there is a base, Okinawa, Japan mainland, and of course Okinawa में there is a base, Guam there is a base. Philippines के अंदर अभी आया है कि भाई 4 नए बेस अमेरिका देगा, as I said. उसके बाद ग्लाइड पॉइंट इन डार्विन there is a base, Singapore there is a base, and of course यहाँ पर इनकी US की फ्लीट ऊपर नीचे चलती रहती है. Where you see that एक छोटा सा रेड बॉक्स है जहां पर कह रहा है चाइना's टेरिटोरियल क्लेम, जो 9 डैश लाइन ये जो दिखाते हैं, which is the first island chain. This is what the Chinese claim as their own territory. As a matter of fact, यहाँ पे भी बड़ी interesting चीजें हो रही हैं. There was a US carrier which was kind of floating around in that area. The Chinese created a lot of tamasha. Let's get back to this. 4 additional military bases in the Philippines. Now Philippines and America की काफी पुरानी history सी है. They've got some issues also, social issues, because a lot of Americans kind of created a lot of junior Americans and ran away from there. So the Philippines have a little bit of resistance. But I guess यहाँ पर इस time पे because of the issues काफी problems हैं. If you look at this छोटा सा map जो मैंने दिया हुआ है यहाँ पर, Philippines आपको दिखा रहा है, and they're the four bases that it's showing there. Scarborough Show is the place where एक बड़ा स्टैंड ऑफ हुआ था 2012 में, जहां शी जिनपिंग को एक्चुअली काफी एलिवेशन मिली थी, एंड ही pretty much became the president because the Americans backed off from this standoff. Philippines के साथ Americans told the Philippines to back off. US has also opened an embassy in Solomon Islands. Now Solomon Islands is far in the east. वहां पर ये you know it's जहां पर ये legend बना हुआ है, it's somewhere around there. Uh, the problem was that the Chinese had done इनके साथ deal शील किया था, security deal, where Chinese the PLA could be used in certain scenarios, the Chinese police could be used in certain, a very ambiguous sort of agreement. कुछ leak sheek हुआ था and all that stuff. Everybody got said, oh ये क्या हो रहा है and all that. So the US got into the act, and they kind of opened up a, a, a embassy there after almost 30 years. Let's move on. Chinese ने काफी सारे man-made islands बनाए हुए हैं in the South China Sea. They've made all these islands, and you can find a lot of videos of the Chinese threatening the US aircraft when they're doing flying around that place. कि भाई, you're in Chinese territorial waters, get out from here and all that stuff. एक news निकली which which came out and said how China's man-made islands are falling apart and sinking into the ocean. So this is interesting. Shoddy construction plus climate change equals unstable islands. Very, very simple. Let's not waste some more time. इसमें एक इंडिया एंगल है. ठीक है, अभी ये सडनली अब देखिए इंडिया का हर जगह कुछ नाम निकलेगा, बिकॉज इंडिया हैज बिकम अ वेरी सेंट्रल फोर्स in this region. Now, regional power is something that you can actually term as. I want to take this second news up. The Veer Guardian exercise we have done in Japan. For the first time, Sukhoi 30s landed. There was a huge crowd. I mean, you can see the videos again on YouTube, waiting, photographs being clicked, and this and that. you know, India and Japan relationship suddenly has started coming up, and bada interesting tha, this was between the January 12th and the 26th where this exercise was taking place. Note the name, Veer Guardian. Of course, the second news came out when Ajit Doval Saab had visited the USA, and they said that we will, boost the cooperation between the two countries with regards to defense and technology. So AI के बारे में बात हुई, defense production के बारे में बात हुई, a lot of engine technology for that matter. GE 404 engines which were there, 414 and 404 engines which will be made in India now. तो काफी कुछ उसके अंदर moves हुई थी. And this is where the India angle starts coming in. But of course, we will also go through this entire presentation and see further India angles. यहाँ पर एक इंटरेस्टिंग सा चीज था, जो रिपब्लिकन सेनेटर, he had sent a letter to Tony Blinken and said that the Chinese aggression against India and Taiwan is unacceptable to us. So ये बड़ा interesting सा, this is within the US establishment, things are coming. And of course, ये जो China rattled by the talks of India and Japan joining AUKUS, एक ये news सी निकली थी, especially after there was a meeting that happened between the NATO states, and UK came out and said, let's make AUKUS G. AUKUS G was Australia, UK, US and Japan and India. इसके बारे में एक they probably बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में छुतरी छोड़ी. They left a small rumor, and of course a lot of things, Chinese got rattled and said, oh no, this is dangerous, this is not okay. India needs to look at this very carefully. Cold War thinking hai, they are against us and this and that and the other. Now, funnily speaking, AUKUS does not mention China. Quad does not mention China. So I wonder why the Chinese are kind of taking this up. Well, they know it. But the interesting is that this is just a talk, yeah. Somebody gave a statement, China gets rattled already, and their, wolf warriors start off. Of course, the wolf warrior in chief is no more there, but they still start off. Now, provocation, and I say sick because of a certain reason, I'm sure you will be able to understand. China urges the US lawmakers not to visit Taiwan amongst the rumored McCarthy trip. So now look at it, the pressure on China is coming up. Base aapne, US has taken the base, India and Japan are doing military exercises. US also said, yeah, no, new Senate, the speaker, House Speaker will go to China just like Nancy Pelosi did. Of course, a lot of Chinese think tanks came and said, yeah, we should shoot it down, and all that stuff. काफी कुछ ये गेम है. So Chinese urges So this is a provocation sort of a game which the US is kind of playing with the Chinese. Funnily speaking, Mike Pompeo came out and said that China wants world dominance and is a bigger threat than Vladimir Putin. भाई Putin was supposed to take over UK, sorry, the entire European Union. अभी बोल रहे हैं भाई China is a bigger threat than Putin. So this needs to be taken care of. Mike Pompeo, obviously, he wrote that book, and I think he's trying to make these controversial statements so that he can sell his book. Having said that, I kind of personal opinion, I don't have a very high regard for the man. He's part of the entire globalist cabal, who's basically, pro the American actions in Ukraine, pro this, pro that, and it's just a whole lot of dodgy business here. And I think all of us might know by now उसने इंडिया के बारे में क्या लिखा था. Why should China is providing weaponry. एक second, let me just remove this QR code. China is providing modern weaponry to Taiwan, to the Taliban. Now, mera, something I said with General Shankar today also. यार अगर Chinese want to go to Afghanistan, all we need to do is buy a red carpet and please put it there and let them go. हमको threaten नहीं होना चाहिए इन चीजों के बारे में, because there is if they want to dig a hole for themselves, साहब shovel हमसे ले लो या हम खोद देते हैं आपके लिए, आप ही चले जाओ. So it should be like that. We should welcome them going into Afghanistan, because I don't think they know what they're doing. That also tells you the trust that the Chinese have on the Pakistanis going forward. Now, ये balloon बड़ा interesting सा है ये. I mean, that tells you that इसके दो तीन चीजें we can understand. ये balloon, Anikesh, I think you've written balloon is an apt metaphor regarding the whole situation. Absolutely, I agree with you. But इसका एक और थोड़ा सा angle निकलता है which we need to look at. And this is just the first line thought. Uh, पहला थॉट जो मेरे को निकलता है कि भाई चाइनीज आर सेंडिंग अ बलून एंड दे से भाई रिग्रेटफुली इट वेंट देयर, वी कांट कंट्रोल इट एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट. If you look at the map of the balloon, it goes straight on to Montana, where these nuclear weapons and the nuclear silos are there from the United States. And that's something which is थोड़ा सा weird है यार. I mean, come on, इतना झूठ मत बोलो. भेज दिया है, थोड़ा सॉरी सॉरी बोल के खत्म करो. But don't say that it was a weather balloon and all that stuff. But anyways, that is a standard dialogue. Even when the US used to conduct these overflights over Soviet Union, they used to say these are weather reconnaissance aircraft. Now, Tony Blinken was supposed to go meet his counterpart, King Gang, and of course, probably meet Xi Jinping as well. He cancelled his visit. The Chinese said, नहीं नहीं ऐसा तो कुछ था नहीं, अभी तक confirmed नहीं है. Neither side had formally announced his visit, so they kind of trying to back off from it. But the Chinese balloon say, यार एक दो चीजें we need to. I can't help but thinking about it. I don't have any proof, but I can't help. I'm just going to state it out. You guys agree with it or not? I don't know. If the Chinese actually have to send a balloon to do surveillance, what does that tell you about their satellite technology? Point to think. Some research needs to be done. I will do that and come back to you. दूसरा thing, why are they, I mean, एक balloon भेज के आप कितना reconnaissance कर लोगे? The amount of technology, and a balloon is very visible. Were the Chinese purposefully trying to show that देखो हम ये आपके साथ कर सकते हैं? So this is something, these are two things that I thought of when I look at this whole balloon picture. I'm not getting into अब वो क्यों उड़ रहा था, इतने टाइम उड़ रहा था, एक चाइना यहाँ पर अभी कनाडा के ऊपर उड़ रहा है कि साउथ अमेरिका के ऊपर उड़ रहा है. लॉट ऑफ पीपल सेड एक इंडिया के ऊपर भी आया था. Yeah, so there's a lot which is there. Thank you, sir, for Chingang. So the main thing is that balloon tells us two things about the Chinese. They're not very confident about their satellite surveillance right at the beginning. That's something I want to say. And probably they want to showcase that this is what we can do. Moving forward, China online. Of course, China has this great firewall, and let's see how they're using it. No sexy women. China launches a New Year internet crackdown to clear out the content from ex criminals, binge eaters, and scantily clad influencers. I mean, correcting their society probably. So that's interesting. Let's also see Google slays thousands of fake news videos posted by pro China group Dragon Bridge. This is interesting for us because there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of anti-India narratives which are being played. China is behind a lot of them. Now the story is coming out that China was behind indeed the BBC documentary. इसके अंदर Chinese हाथ दिख रहा है because Huawei has been paying the BBC. So there is some tango which is obviously happening there. But it's very, very interesting. Google actually is getting into this game. I think they're preparing for the next year's election. China linked fake news site shows disinformation on the rise. Beijing backed PR firm is behind at least 72 Australia's websites, right? So they've got this online propaganda game is very, very nicely tuned up by China, and they're going to do this. Why am I putting this across here, guys? What is the India angle? This is all US, but it can happen to us. It has happened to us before. It is happening to us right now, and it can happen to us in the future. China crew ramps up disinformation ahead of US midterms. Not that anybody's falling for it. Now, these are interesting news that came out, and I said Google subsidiary Mandarin reported that this week the China aligned cyber influence team is using thousands of fake online accounts to do this. So they इनके ना bot shots होते हैं, ठकाठक 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 they will create all this stuff. As a matter of fact, same thing इन लोगों ने पाकिस्तान के लिए भी सेटअप किया था for the ISI, and a lot of it is being used by Imran Khan, by the way. इसके बारे में proof है जो मैंने I've spoken about this in my Khalistan video. Now, China keeping 1 hour daily limit on kids for online gaming by control the society. Control, 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 control. That's what Xi Jinping wants. बच्चों को 1 घंटे से ज्यादा गेम्स नहीं खेलने हैं. After that, of course, COVID काफी गंदा चला. वहां पर काफी सारे videos I think came out. We all saw those videos, terrible videos. I mean, my heart wrenches looking at the situation there. But what they call fake news, China's internet censors launch a crackdown on fake news about COVID-19. Interestingly, guys, pata hai aapko, they were using Telegram. So the Chinese would do one thing, they would buy a spare sort of a phone, uske andar Telegram on karte the, patapat, they would put out through VPN, which is untraceable. And when the entire protest got over, they switched off those phones, took out Telegram and dumped it somewhere and be done with it. So it's very difficult to trace back. And Telegram mein वैसे भी थोड़ा सा game है. Right, so that is something which is very interesting. uh, अभी टेक पार्टनरशिप के ऊपर of course Chinese put out, as I said, एक छोटा सा न्यूज डाला था. So I thought I'll put it in the online part so that we remember the India angle. And same bed, different dreams is what the Chinese actually come out and say. Now, guys, there are quite a lot of news stories, little stories, so I'm going to run through them. If you find guys want some clarity on something like that, you can please put it in your questions. Put the hashtag ask so that I know that you're asking me a question. Now, we know that there is a chip ban sort of a thing which is happening, and a lot of chip making equipment and chips technology and this and that is getting banned up. Now, Xi Jinping says that China must quicken the pace of tech self-reliance to prevent being strangled by foreign countries. Tells you, tells you something, tells you that they're worried about it. And if it has to come from Xi Jinping के अपने मुंह से अगर ये आना है, so it is very, 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 very interesting. Now, Atmanirbhar, China भी ये, they're also trying to do. Xi Jinping is थोड़ा weak in sloganeering. I think he needs to learn from Modi Saab a little bit. Jokes apart, let's also talk about their economy. Now, Lunar New Year was supposed to be the time where 1 million Chinese travel, and they're supposed to be boosting the economy up and taking China to the levels as pre-COVID. यही तो China's का propaganda था. But हुआ क्या? Chinese didn't travel. They said, भाई वैसी फटी हुई है, इतने सारे कोविड केसेस हो रखे हैं, हम नहीं जा रहे कहीं पे. पता चले हॉस्पिटल नहीं मिला, ये नहीं मिला, वो नहीं मिला, पकड़ और खराब. बाहर जाएंगे पता चला यार और भी चक्कर हो जाएगा. So they kind of resisted. Travel did happen, but they kind of resisted. They kind of resisted their this thing. Chinese real estate magnate. Now this guy is the chairperson of what's his name, Evergrande. He loses 93% of his wealth. 93%, right? And this is not some Hindenburg doing a target on him. This is their own system hitting him down and putting him out. Jack Ma तो भाई छोड़ के भाग गया. He's already sitting in Japan and he's He said, भाई तुमको Ali Baba ये वो पकड़ो, मैं जा रहा हूँ यहाँ से, and he left. I'm sure he stashed up some money somewhere, उसने set होगा वो. This is interesting. China keeps adding crude oil to its inventories. China में एक बड़ा thought process है यार. They don't want to go through shortages. उनका बड़ा system है कि खाना होना चाहिए, fuel होना चाहिए. Because any time that the Chinese have gone through shortages, the government falls. Those of you who are interested in Chinese history, थोड़ा सा इसके ऊपर आप पढ़ेंगे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि चाइना में एक गेम है कि कहीं पे शॉर्टेज, स्पेशली फूड शॉर्टेज होती है तो इनकी बत्ती बंद हो जाती है. सो एनीवेज, लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. चाइना कैन नॉट बी आउट, चाइना मस्ट बी इन. फ्रांस इज डाइवर्जिंग विथ वॉशिंगटन ऑन बीजिंग टाइज. नाउ यूरोप ना यार, एक ये मैंने देखा है, यूरोप वेस्ट को तो, वेस्ट मैंने ऐसे यूएस को ट्रस्ट करना तो डिफिकल्ट है, यूरोप तो भाई एकदम ही प्रॉब्लम है. नाउ फनीली स्पीकिंग, फ्रांस हैज इसके इंटरेस्ट हैं इंडो पैसिफिक में. इन्होंने इंडो पैसिफिक पॉलिसी निकाली है, इंडिया को फोर फ्रंट बताया है, ये करा वो करा है, हमको दे आर गिविंग अ सबमरीन टेक्नोलॉजी एंड दिस एंड दैट एंड द अदर, एंड दे स्टिल गो अहेड एंड feel so. Why am I again telling you this? Please, every time you read news about any country, think about India. Think about India always. आप हिंदुस्तान के पोजीशन के बारे में सोचिए, किस पे डिपेंड करना चाहिए. That's the question I asked for this video. Let's move on. Tourism is roaring back in China, but the 6 trillion consumer market is digging itself out of a deep slump. Tourism is booming in China, but the internal consumption market is not working. Now, see, the funny thing about this Chinese news is that they sometimes put very contradictory statements. Agar tourism is roaring, then how is it that this thing is falling? Anyways, we'll just take it, by this thing, because it is very, very clear, and this has also been reported by, China Daily, that the amount of travel has not been that high. Of course, these guys put out news in CNBC, CNN, ye, wo, these are propaganda pieces, and that's how you should look at it. Chinese cities are struggling to pay their bills as hidden debts soar. Mhm. China's outstanding government debts surpassed $18 trillion, of which 10 trillion is so-called hidden debt. Now, I'm not going to get into this in depth, guys. This was covered by General Narayan Saab. I don't think anybody can cover it better than him. Video is there. Chinese GDP numbers are fake. Check it out. China puts Neelam Jhelum hydropower project in POK on the back burner. अच्छा जी, ये तो पाकिस्तान को झटका फिर से लग गया. So, okay, why are they putting it on back burner? पैसा नहीं है भाई. My money is mine. China's billionaire rushed to Singapore to protect wealth. Now, this is a dream of China, huh? By the way. All Chinese people have this dream that we should become like Singapore. Singapore is a very, I personally find it to be a very authoritarian and very, I don't want to use the word state, which is blamed on India most of the time. But the Chinese say, yeah, that is order. हमको वैसी जगह पे रहना है. So a lot of Chinese millionaires, billionaires, they kind of push their money out and go in. In my previous China update, I had actually given you numbers. It's large. About $4.3 billion at that time had moved out within a month. It's pretty much the same because, a lot of opportunities in China are getting lost. Chip war, I told you this tech war, chip war, which is happening. Japan will restrict the chip manufacturing machines. Korea semiconductor trade ties to fray, they are falling. Netherlands, who makes these machines, has said, "Bhai, हम आपको नहीं दे सकते." USA has said, "Bhai, we will not send you any technology." Huawei को थोड़ा बहुत बेच रहे थे, वो भी बंद कर दिया इन लोगों ने अभी 2-3 days back, before they kind of put out a ban and said, "No, we're not going to give any new technology to Huawei as well." So the problem is, Chinese economy जो है, it is made on electronic goods, a lot of it, electronic consumer goods, cars and this and that, ye wo. All of them use chips. They want to upgrade their military. That uses chips. So there's going to be a problem for the Chinese, and that's why you see Xi Jinping coming out and saying, "Boss, आत्मनिर्भर चाइना बनना है हमको." Chinese internet firms report first ever combined revenue decline. गई भैंस पानी में. In 2022, as Alibaba and Tencent momentum wanes. ठीक है, Alibaba, Tencent, तो they've pushed out. Now the combined revenue of Chinese internet firms in 2022 shrank 1.1%. It's a start. You ban the chips, it's going to go further down. China's e-commerce market sees at least 89 platforms close in 2022. Okay. Which is about 36% of the total casualties in 2022 as far as online platforms is concerned. And domestic consumption is what China is talking about. They want that domestic consumption to happen, which is a very weird thing. By the way, they coming on that, I'll take a minute to spend that. The domestic consumption in China is, वो बोलते हैं भाई हमको internal consume करना है. Like India की जो economy है ना, is very self-reliant in the sense हमारा internal consumption, हम लोग, you and me consume so much of goods and services that the economy stays afloat in spite of the fact that lower foreign trade is there. China में नहीं है सर. China is a saving economy. वो क्या करते हैं, अपना घर खरीद लेंगे, ये खरीद लेंगे, वो खरीद लेंगे. Main thing is houses. Now houses तो उनकी value गिर गई है. Evergrande is under problem. This, that, and the other. So people have lost money right there. When they've lost money there, they're not spending money anywhere else because they want to save. Lockdown, shockdown, 3 साल they've been under lockdown. तो अब क्या है? China says यार हमको अभी internal consumption बढ़ाना है. अच्छा जी. इनका प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने बोला था कि भाई हमारे तो सैलरी बड़ी कम है, 1000 yuan or something like that he had said per month. Now, if the salary is less, how does he have internal consumption go up? And this is a very large chunk of their population, which is the worker class. तो मतलब they'll have to increase the wages. अगर वो wage increase करेंगे तो इनकी थोड़ी सी internal consumption बढ़ेगी. ठीक है, समझ में आ गया. अगर wage increase करेंगे, what will happen is the Chinese labor cost will go up. When the Chinese labor cost goes up, their competitiveness falls. Their main competitive thing is that we have got the lowest labor costs and good infrastructure. There's no question about it. But if this actually happens, is what Chinese are trying to do, they are digging a hole for themselves, as I just explained to you. Now, ये overnight नहीं होगा. This will take a little time. It will happen. Tech war. Huawei's fate in the spotlight amidst reports that Joe Biden is considering cutting it off completely. Now, what I've been told by some people is that a lot of it has already got cut off. काफी कुछ नहीं अभी available नहीं है, अगले महीने फोन करना and all that stuff. So, delaying tactics are already on against these guys. So it's very, very interesting that all this is happening right now as the Ukraine war is still on. मेरे को लगा था कि भाई यूक्रेन वॉर खत्म करके थोड़ा सा हाथ मुंह धो के फिर आएंगे इस तरफ, चाइना की तरफ. They didn't. They're already focusing this way. And Forbes today actually reported that China is helping Russia's war with Ukraine with military aid. अब देखो ऐसा है, किसी को डब्बे में डालना है, जैसे ईरान को they've already put it in a box. What do? You're selling weapons to Russia. So secondary sanctions. This is again, to me, it looks like building a certain amount of case. This was reported by the Wall Street Journal, a big newspaper within the US establishment. True or not, I don't know. But this is what he says, right? It tells you the mindset of people within the US. What's happening inside China? Population is declining, and Sichuan is saying couples have unlimited children. As if couples are waiting in line and saying, भैया आप बताओ, just आपने हुक्म दे दिया, आप देखो. The Chinese don't realize, and please don't take me the wrong way and in a very crass way, I may be explaining this to you, but if today all Chinese couples, decide to conceive, you know what I mean? It'll take them 18 years to get that population back into shape. So once a demography starts declining, it's damn difficult to bring it back. Unless until Chinese literally start paying people to, have children, which is difficult. Now, right, coronavirus, of course, it says 80% of the population is already done. There is this news, I forget the name. Any of you remember the name of the the new variant which is coming out. I forget. It starts with O. Anyways, if you guys remember, just put it on the comment box. It's just slipped my mind. It's a new variant floating around in the America. Huge amount of cases in America and Canada and all that stuff. I wonder how potent is it. India में तो कोई बात नहीं कर रहा भाई. हिंडनबर्ग, अडानी और बीबीसी से बाहर निकलेंगे तो कुछ बात करेंगे हमारे मीडिया में. But I don't know the potency. But if you look at what the government of India has said, कि यार इतना नहीं है, let's hang on, let's be careful, but let's be cautious. Guys, anyone who has the no, not Omicron, not Omicron. There's another one which is from O, which has come out, Orpheus or something like that, which is the name. Uh, I don't know. I just forget. Any please, guys, one of you just let me know. China denies COVID vaccine to North Korean defectors. 80% of the Chinese population is infected. Now, that we've covered already, but denies a COVID vaccine to North Korean defectors. I mean, how pathetic can you be? You wanted to do vaccine diplomacy at one time, and you people who are defecting in your country, at least give them a damn vaccine. Yeah, itna kya hai? I mean, we sent it all around the world. ठीक है, but here is China. See how petty their mindset is. Ah, ha, 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 ha. This we have to see very, very carefully. Why Beijing and 45 other cities in China are sinking? Now, I'm not saying metaphorically sinking, they're actually sinking. Beijing alone in the last decade has sunk 14 inches, more than a foot. Shoo. Now, this article is very interesting. It talks about the fact that, you know, the development happened too fast, and the ground has not been able to take it, and a lot of silting has happened, and because the Chinese keep drilling holes here and there and making dams and this and that, that's one of the reasons why this particular thing has happened. It's the sink rate is at about 11 centimeters per year. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, XBB 1.5 variant. Thank you so much. That's what it is. Now, the Chinese military, last second last section of this talk, where I come to the main part. China adds 22 warships to this world's largest coast guard fleet. Japanese news agency says, again tells you something. The other day हम लोग me and General Shankar were talking, and हमारा show था जब we talked about China पे थोड़ा ध्यान देना चाहिए हमको and all that stuff. समझ में नहीं आता यार चाइना बोलता क्या है होता क्या है and all that stuff. No, this is how I read it. China adds 22 ships to the world's largest coast guard fleet. Japanese news agency says. Right. Now let's look at it. Why is he adding coast guard ships, and why is he adding coast guard ships that to 22 numbers? Ek saath. Does he have a threat close to his coast? Or if you actually break the People's Liberation Army Navy down, PLAN जिसको बोलते हैं, most of their ships are coastal ships. They are scared of a coastal attack, a maritime attack. So they are a defensive sort of a posture. दूसरा चीज है, द चाइनीज थिंक दैट ये जो छोटे छोटे शिप्स हैं इसके अंदर सोल्जर्स भर के हम ताइवान भेज देंगे. सो dual use sort of a game. So they're adding these smaller ships in a very large quantum within their fleet. China Sea ordered military to be ready for Taiwan invasion by 2027. The CIA director Burns says. I don't know how he got to know about that. Of course, the CIA, I'm sure, will have its sources. But यार ऐसा है 2027 तक सब कुछ उसने बोला है भाई ये हो जाना चाहिए. Now Xi Jinping, if he's saying this, Xi Jinping has been talking about military readiness for a long time. I think in 2016 or 18 he had told his army commander that we are running an army, not a kindergarten. So that tells you quite a bit. And of course मैंने एक video किया था where I covered the Chinese military, so where I said that they can't use their navy and they're not able to use their navy. Anyways, in this week I've got Admiral Anup Singh who's going to come out and talk to us about that, who's been the commander of the Eastern and Western Fleet of India. Let's see what he has to hear about the subject. Now comes the Ghantiwala topic, India, China. China is preparing for a water war with India. Of course, with the whole dam that they're constructing in the Brahmaputra. And so we are a lower riparian state. They're an upper riparian state. It's a role reversal as far as the East India is concerned when we have it. अब पाकिस्तान में देखिए, अब हमने उनको इंडस वाटर के लिए थोड़ा सा करा है. China can do that to us to some extent. Of course, the threat has been over extensiated. A lot of people have said, nahi yaar, ye to doob jayega, they can change the course of the river and this and that and the other. It's not. There is a threat, not that much. Secondly, India has also created a certain project which will be make a reservoir जो अगर वो flood भी करते हैं तो पानी वहां पर इकट्ठा करने के लिए आपके पास जगह होगी. I've done a detailed episode about India's water wars with Lieutenant General PG Kamath. You can just go there, type India's water wars on my website or on YouTube. Lieutenant General PG Kamath. It is a brilliant talk, and he's one guy who gets into details. So you guys will love it, I'm sure. India engages with Bhutan after a week after his border talks with China. We covered this today afternoon, so I'm not going to get into the depth of it. If those of you have not seen it, check that episode out. India's neighborhood and the Chinese created crisis. Indian Air Force massive exercise was done next to the line of actual control at the end of January. Now, this Chinese actually saw it as a large provocation. Lot of statements, lot of this, lot of that. They also started doing some flying in that area. But anyways, that's part of the game. China seeks to limit technology access for solar manufacturing. Move aimed at India. Now you can see this. They have started targeting your economy a little bit. The move by China to restrict access to latest solar manufacturing technology is squarely aimed at India. Hmm. Anyways, I'm sure we are resilient enough. We'll figure out what needs to be done. And I'm sure plans of all this stuff have already been made. So let's not worry about it. And, if you guys want, I'll do a little more research on this particular thing and come out and, uh, I'll come out and actually tell you. I'm just making a note of it. I will probably write an article or something like that and share you some more details on this. But having said that, this is a interesting news that came out. Now, yeah, what's my favorite word? My favorite word is narrative, propaganda. ऐसा है भाई, ये तो शुरू हो गया है. South China Morning Post used to very seldom write anything negative about India. ठीक है, and I want to show you how narratives are made, especially by China. इनका ना यार प्रॉब्लम इज इनका हेडलाइन बड़ा जबरदस्त होता है, नीचे पढ़ो तो सब फुस. Now let's read this very carefully. Indian doctor lifts lid on the dark side of India's wellness and traditional medicine sector. What is our traditional medicine sector? Ayurveda. Of course, the place I'm sitting in right now in Mysore, huge amount of Ayurvedic setup and everything like that. Yoga Ayurveda is very big. It's spreading all across the country right now. But fair enough. Despite threats and complaints and accusations, he is anti-Hindu scientist Ceriac Abbey Phillips has been highlighting the cases of liver damage caused by traditional medicine. Okay, that's all he says. India's government has been promoting Ayurveda as an alternative to Western medicine, but its benefits are insufficiently tested, he says. कहाँ से पकड़ा डॉक्टर ये, कहाँ पर क्या करा वो ठीक है. Anyways, ठीक, let that be. The liver doc is his Twitter ID, and he says slimming you to the death, herbal life. Acha. So it's not Ayurveda. It is Herbalife medicines cause acute liver failure, heavy metal, toxic material, and all that stuff is found, and these products are being sold in India. Is Herbalife equal to Ayurveda now? That's how narratives are made. So you put a very catchy headline at the top, and niche you put these details somewhere. Who reads that entire article? And that's the problem. We need to be very careful and look at the name of the lady who's just come out from here. It's an Indian. So there is an ecosystem. There is a Chinese paid ecosystem within India who's doing this. Something we need to understand and remember very carefully. Although this doesn't really fit into it does to a certain extent, but I wanted to put this across because narratives ke bina yaar mera khana hajam hota nahi hai, and I want to kind of push it out very clearly that narratives is the game. It's the mind games which the Chinese will play with you. And ये ऐसे articles इनके बहुत आने शुरू हो गए. I've been reading South China Morning Post for a while, and पहले आता था यार, Indian food is damn good, Indian culture, Indian dance, ये वो and all that stuff. Now all this has started coming in. Sorry guys, this is coming a little long, but Another 3 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, I should be able to go through this, and I'm going to get into your questions after that. Can India trust all these calls against China? Now, knowing what you know till now, the bunch load of news that I've shown you, we need to now keep all that in mind as I go through and discuss this. Let's go to the first one. Of course, the big news that came today, एक और surgical strike, e-surgical strike, if I'm going to call it, 230 betting loan apps linked to China have been banned in India. I think, I don't know, the total number has gone to like what, 500 Chinese apps till now. It's mind-boggling. And a lot of people say app ban kar rahe ho and all that stuff. Yeah, we are the only country who's been successfully been able to do it. Point number one, we're the only country that has stood up to China and said bugger off. We're the only country that actually caused economic damage to China for the first time, right? In terms of the technological sector, we kept Huawei out, we kept all these guys out. So there's a lot that India has done, of course, unrecognized. Now, Taiwan fines Foxconn for unauthorized China investment. Huh. Taiwan fines its own company Foxconn, अपनी कंपनी को फाइन करती है because of unauthorized investment in China. मतलब Foxconn has some hidden game with China, does it? Nothing in this game is what it seems. Taiwan, although all sympathies for Taiwan, but having said that, do you know where they sow their money? On the mainland. A million Taiwanese work where? In the mainland. A large section till very recently, I don't know what's going to happen in the next election, let's only wait and watch, does have a lot of affinity to the mainland. But of course, there is also this military angle and the takeover angle and the war angle of it. But they do business together. That's something we need to keep in mind. In India, हमारे में क्या है ना, हम लोग थोड़े से we are a little emotional. Oh, Taiwan and झंडे लगाने शुरू हो जाएंगे and this and that and the other. Now, I want to, by the way, Ukraine का कोई, I don't see any more Indians putting the Ukraine flag. They want to sanction us. We need to look at things from a little further perspective, right? And I'll tell you why. US investors have poured billions into China's AI sector. अभी वो आपके साथ दे रहे हैं. First slide. They want to link with you now. After giving Chinese billions of dollars, now they're saying नहीं यहाँ चाइना तो गलती होगी, अब हम इंडिया के साथ जा रहे हैं. पाकिस्तान समझाएगा हमको, पैसे दे दो, ठीक है, इंडस्ट्री लगा लो, but if you think you're going to get us into a loop somewhere, I'd leave the rest. I'm sure you guys know the answer. Okay, so this is the thing. We need to understand. There are when we talk about the West, there's always money somewhere or the other, and that money plays a game. That's the reason why decoupling, they tell the rest of the world, आप लोग decouple करो. Oh, you stop buying Russian oil. Okay, we'll stop buying Russian oil. You stop buying Russian oil from us then. US pursues India as a supply chain alternative to China. अरे भाई, किंग का ताज बना देंगे आपको यार. मोदी साहब, आप आओ तो सही. Come in June, come in July. We make you a king. Let's take all the help that they want to give us. Give us the technology, give us this thing. But at the end of it, India must remain Atmanirbhar and separate. There is just no question about it. Looking at what's happening around the world today, we guys need to be clear about one thing. दोस्ती सबसे, trust कम से. Bidding alliances and partnerships, top priority. US Deputy Defense Secretary tells the NSA Doval. दोवल साहब वाज इन यूएसए, वहां पर काफी सारी मीटिंग शीटिंग हुई, काफी सारे पैक्ट्स भी साइन हुए. बट यार ऐसा है, ये जो वर्ड अलायंस है ना, आई हैव अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ एन अम्ब्रेज विद दिस. व्हाट डज अलायंस मीन? अलायंस का मतलब है साहब, हम चाइना के साथ लड़ेंगे, आप जरा साथ में खड़े हो हमारे. ठीक है. लुक एट यूरोप. फ्रांस में प्रोटेस्ट हो रहे हैं, बुरे हाल हैं. अलायंस में खड़े रहो आप. जर्मनी में भाई मैं टैंक नहीं दूंगा, मैं ये नहीं करूंगा, मैं वो नहीं करूंगा. टैंक दे भाई. सिंपल. That's the thing we need to understand. When the game of alliances come in, you're also going to be responsible for the other's actions. And that's something that we need to very, very clearly remember. Especially dealing with the US right now. US needs the support. देखो यार ऐसा है, US has got itself into an issue in Europe. यूरोप में आपका वॉर चल रही है. अभी आप दूसरी तरफ से इधर पे चाइना में स्टार्ट कर रहे हो, अकेले तो कर नहीं सकते. One second. Victoria Nuland, my favorite regime changer. Russia and China access not good for India. Acha ji, thank you for your advice. US can help with defense supplies. We're not in Ukraine. We can buy our defense supplies. What happened when we asked for good defense supplies? They didn't give it to us. Now that they need us, Ajo, yeah, take everything you want. We should also go take everything we want. That's all. Now, the funny thing is, need alternatives to Russian military equipment for India. Biden administration. Who said this? Again, Victoria Nuland told the lawmakers in the US that US needs to help India find alternatives to Russian military equipment, and that is a part of the job that we have to do. When people like her say stuff like that, our ears should stand up. How many of us still think we should take or trust the help coming from the West? Victoria Nuland did a lot of stuff. ये गई भाई, नेपाल गई, ये श्रीलंका गई. नेपाल में बोला भाई ऐसा है, इंडिया के साथ बैलेंस करो. गोज टू श्रीलंका एंड सेज भाई क्रेडिबल अश्योरेंसेस चाहिए. अश्योरेंसेस कहाँ से चाहिए? चाइना से चाहिए. श्रीलंका की पूरी डील रुकी हुई है बिकॉज ऑफ द फैक्टर दैट द चाइनीज हैव बीन अ लिटिल स्लो अबाउट इट. शी इज मेकिंग द राइट नॉइजेस, बट आर दे सीरियस? US to renew efforts to reduce India's oil and military dependency on Russia. Hmm. Hmm. Tells you something. आप दे दो यार, यूर ऑल्सो वेरी ऑयल रिच कंट्री, आप डिस्काउंट में दे दो, हम आपसे ले लेंगे, हमको क्या है. यू कैन टेल कॉल अप सऊदी अरेबिया एंड से हाँ भाई सलमान साहब इंडिया को दे दो डिस्काउंट में, हम ले लेंगे. वो दे रहा है, वी विल टेक. This war in Ukraine, guys, a lot of people, a lot of especially military veterans don't find that to be interesting. Everybody says, nahi yaar, ye to aise ho gaya and all that stuff. I agree, the military war is not doing well, or it's not going the way a lot of people would want it to be. But the other war is changing the world. US efforts to decouple from China are hurting American businesses. हंटर बाइडेन साहब ने बोला क्या ये? I don't know. That was a joke. But that tells you again that US businesses, again, it's all the money. It's all the money. US has a huge business interest within China. China owns a lot of the US debt. American lawmakers warn against China's takeover of two military academies. Acha ji. Military academies. Let's read through. The report claims that in 2015, the Chinese people People's Political Consultative Conference, a political advisory board to the CCP, purchased the New York Military Academy for $16 million. Chinese setup purchased the US military academy. Unbelievable, right? Can we trust them? In 2017, a Chinese education conglomerate purchased the Florida Preparatory Academy, reportedly to create a global educational alliance system. Both of these military academies, Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, JROTC, and train military officers for the US Army. ये न्यूज 2023 में निकाली है बाहर, 2015 एंड 17 की. They want to fight. Of course, they are doing hemming in this, that, ye, wo, and all that stuff, but US must realize he's got internal fault lines. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Now, I want to ask and answer a question in the next 1 minute about can we trust them? When the Chinese standoff happened, जो लद्दाख में जो स्टैंड ऑफ हुआ था, उस टाइम पे मिलिट्री वेटरन्स ने एक चीज समझाई थी मेरे को, ट्रस्ट बट वेरीफाई. ट्रस्ट बट वेरीफाई फॉर इंडिया, आई थिंक वो एक हमारा जार्गन बनना चाहिए. आई एम नॉट सेइंग ऐसा है कि भाई यूएस से आपको ये प्रॉब्लम है, फ्रांस के साथ ये प्रॉब्लम है, जर्मनी के साथ ये प्रॉब्लम है, आप जाके उनके साथ लड़ाई करो एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ. नो, डोंट डू ऑल दैट. You also need them to a large extent. आपको global support चाहिए. And USA has been supporting you. ऐसी बात नहीं है. UN के अंदर especially USA has been putting a lot of weight behind. जब पाकिस्तानी को वो टेररिस्ट डिक्लेयर करना पड़ता है तो यूएस आपकी काफी सपोर्ट करता है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि it's not that, and there is very good relations between both the countries. There's respect amongst the population and this and that. दोनों populations काफी close हैं, काफी इधर उधर जाते हैं लोग, ये होता है वो होता है, all that stuff is there. But does the establishment think the same way? When you have a Hindenburg happening, when you have काफी चीजें होती हैं, अटैक्स आते हैं, डेमोक्रेसी इंडेक्स, ये इंडेक्स वो इंडेक्स, और कुछ नहीं तो कोई कोई बोला सा आदमी को खड़ा कर देंगे, वहां पर बोलेंगे भाई इंडिया की ह्यूमन राइट्स खराब है. We've seen that, right? We've seen that before. तो ऐसा है, trust but verify must be the formula for India. A lot of developments on this subject are going to happen in the future, guys. ये चीज ठंडी होने नहीं वाली. इसके लिए मैंने ये आपको छोटा तो नहीं, काफी लंबा इंट्रोडक्शन दिया है. We need to keep this in mind and go forward. Guys, like this video. Please, please, please. Please check your subscriptions so that you get to know when the shows are there. Check the bell icons if you want the notifications. You can help out Dev Talks by this QR code right here, or become members, or actually just send us a super sticker or super thanks. Let's get into your questions. Right. Okay. Thank you, Naveen Saab, for this. For the contribution. Thank you so much. Let's get into the questions. Difference between Democrats and Republicans approach the foreign office affairs, especially China and India, is trust the right paradigm to base this relationship on. India first approach and a mutual anti-China alignment, a better approach. Naveen, I think that's a very deep question, यार. आपने जो पूछा है बड़ा जबरदस्त क्वेश्चन है. देखिए, एक्चुअली क्या है, as far as the Democrats and Republicans are concerned, today I don't find much difference in them. ठीक है, मेरे को वो difference दिख नहीं रहा है. I find them to be in a situation called the Uniparty. इनका, if you look at them, their voices are the same. हाँ, लड़ाई झगड़ा करते हैं, but their basic things about Ukraine, this, that, ये वो, has been pretty much the same. So it's a little difficult to kind of put that across. Now, India first approach and a mutual anti-China alignment is a better approach. देखिए, ऐसा है, anti-China alignment, I'd actually twist it a little bit. You said India first. I'd say pro India approach and in working in India's interests rather than an anti China approach. Because when you do anti China stuff, you're going to forget yourself. So I'd rather keep it pro India and not anti China. I'm not a China sympathizer, as you guys must know by now. But the main thing is that, as you said, you used the word paradigm, which is very interesting because the entire paradigm and the entire scenario of the relationship between India and the West is going to change. स्पेशली अगर ये अटैक्स ऐसे ही चलते रहे सो काफी ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट आएगा टाइम नाउ इज गोना बी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग बिकॉज दोनों कंट्रीज के अंदर इलेक्शंस हैं एंड इंडिया विल बी वन ऑफ द डिसाइडिंग फैक्टर्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ कॉन्वर्सेशन whenever trade and foreign relations comes in, India's name will be there USA में एंड हमारे फॉरेन रिलेशन में हमेशा यूएसए का नाम प्रोमिनेंट रहेगा सो देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन अबाउट इट बट एज आई सेड आई वुड रादर गो फॉर अ प्रो इंडिया अप्रोच रादर देन एन एंटी चाइना अप्रोच India, Naveen, thank you so much once again. What is the realistic wargaming scenario on what US needs from India with regard to China, both Indo-Tibetan border and in the seas? Well, if you read the national security strategy of the US, they very clearly, and this was enunciated by none other than Lloyd Austin ने बोला था ये कि we consider India as a net security provider for the Indo-Pacific. Now, नेट सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइडर अगेन जैसे जनरल नारायण ने हमको बताया था इज नॉट ओनली मिलिट्री it's food security, it is economic security, it is vaccine security, it is health security, it is this, that, and the others. There are 50,000 other things that will come into the paradigm of security, but they had termed India as the net security provider for the Indo-Pacific. Now, what does US need from India with regard to China is if you're talking in times of war, well, you know, they would obviously appreciate India opening a second front. There's no question about it. But having said that, India is a large power, right? A lot of back-ending work for the USA. I don't know if you guys know that USA has basing rights of their some of their ships that can come and fix up in India as well. So a lot of back-ending support that the USA can get, and of course, in the world today, we have two blocks as are emerging. You've got the Western bloc and the Russia-China bloc. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and all that stuff. India stands bang in the center. And everyone knows whichever way the Indians go, wins. So everybody would want us to be. So that's something which is there. I don't think the USA even expects the factor that we will fight the war with them, but it's also a standing. They'll say, "Bhai, आपको Security Council, no, you deserve it, ये वो and all that." And trust me, we'll hear all this stuff. ये सब कुछ अभी सुनने को मिलेगा हमको. नहीं, US supports. और ठीक है, सपोर्ट तो ठीक है यार, बिल पास करो ना वहां पर यूएसए यूएन में, वो सब नहीं करेंगे. Naveen, once again, thank you so much. Is the partial, if the US partial pivot to China also a sign the US recognizes the Ukraine war is going to drag on for some time? I'd go a step ahead, Naveen, and say they've realized that it's no go, it's no good. And that is pretty evident by एक article निकला था उसके अंदर political no Rand Corporation में, which talks about this is a long war and we need to kind of get rid of it as fast as possible because it's hurting us. Secondly, this whole tank thing. A lot of people say, "Bhai, this is a big step and all that stuff." Well, I look at it in a different way. I think they've announced it. टैंक टूंक कुछ जाने वाले तो कम ही है. यूएसए ने तो बोल ही दिया भाई अगले साल आएंगे. जर्मनी ने बोला अभी यार वो क्या है 2 बनाने में थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, हम आपको लेपर्ड 1 दे देते हैं. लेपर्ड 1 है 1950-60s tanks. So I think they've kind of beginning to realize it. But please understand, Naveen, they've gone so far with the narrative. यार वो कैसे अभी he can't stand up and say यार गलती होगी भाई, इतना झूठ बोल दिया. They will have to build that thing. Yeah, you know what? We gave everything to the Ukrainians. They tried so hard. We did what we could sitting here. It's so difficult. It's wartime. Russians are very bad. and they were very aggressive. We could do what we need to do, but we are sorry that Ukraine lost the war. Right. Ajay, US pretend to help or do it in the extent that is in its interests. Absolutely correct. Is working against India in parallel, pushing documentaries to UK, malicious auditing reports, armed to terrorist country, etc. Each one of these is a separate video altogether. Arms to terrorist country, यार एक पाकिस्तान के फोल्डर में जाके आप देखो ये क्यों F-16 बेचा था. पाकिस्तान ने कोई 400-500 मिलियन डॉलर के इनको यूक्रेन के लिए आर्म्स दिए थे. अब यूएसए ने बोला हाँ ठीक है भाई 450 वापस कर, मैं तेरे को F-16 के स्पेयर दे देता हूँ. That's how it went. Auditing reports, ऐसा है यार, Hindenburg has done this before. Hindenburg had hit Dhirubhai Ambani also. ठीक है. Now, I am not, I'm not a shareholder or anything like that of Adani, but I think his share is going to be okay. His share is going to be okay. The domestic market has shown a lot of confidence in his shares, so I think he's going to be okay. And documentaries to UK, Saab, in that place, I kind of disagree because I personally have the opinion that ये China से आया था. So that's something that we'll have to look at. The present U.S. administration is continuing with the previous China policies of the last administration. Quad has been elevated to the apex level from ministerial under Biden's watch. Yeah, absolutely correct. They are continuing. Actually, they a lot of people say that is this administration is Obama 3.0. So what with what with the news about an airstrip near Dollar Bay Oldie? Sir, Dollar Bay Oldie itself is a huge airstrip. I am not sure what you're talking about. If you can give me a little more clarity, I'll be glad to answer your question. Uh, right. Let's see. The uh let's see, ask guys, please put the ask thing. It becomes very difficult for me to run through so many things, and I don't want to leave a blank screen here with me not saying anything. Are the off topic, but should the foreign minister be, or better the PM visit Taiwan? Whoa. That's interesting. Why not? What can even China do? Boycott us and lose 100 billion a year, or start a war with an economic downturn? They can do a lot more, sir. ऐसा है, Anikesh, Taiwan is not our war. ठीक है. जब चाइनीज के साथ हमारा जो झगड़ा वगड़ा हुआ था, टेल मी वन कंट्री हु केम एंड सेड हम अपने सोल्जर्स भेजेंगे साहब. Why should I send my ship so far away, and or why should I have my PM get involved in a situation that has nothing to do with me? I know morality, this that आप सब बोलते रहो वो सब, but यार देखो, when you talk about national interest as per written by the Chanakya Niti, it says your national interest is the most important thing, and that's I personally believe. That's a joke, and I'm going to take it, Mr. John. If the Chinese want to go to Afghanistan, then India should provide free catering, all you can eat. I said red carpet included, sir. So that has to happen. Aren't there two more balloons over there, over Canada, and another one over South America? Yes, there are, as per the news right now. I think I kind of clarified that. What's the Australia angle? I read that at one point of time, both the sides and the parliament was on the Chinese payroll. Can you shed some light on that? Payroll तो नहीं यार, ऐसा है, they Chinese have infiltrated these societies quite well. ठीक है, अगर हमारे पास भी we blame Bollywood and we blame our media and this and that and the other and the leftist ecosystem which is there in India to be linked up with China and all that stuff. Each country has that. The Chinese have been ये चुपके चुपके से कर रहे हैं 20-25 साल से, हमको किसी को पता चला नहीं है. अभी बेवकूफ़ी करी, they literally walk across the world. Of course issues शुरू हो गए थे 2012 से यूएस के साथ, but the rest of the world was not bothered. They say यार ठीक है यार, यूएस has an issue with everything, right? People are doing business, everything was going okay. India had decent relations, but think where it went. Australia is a interesting game because a lot of Australian wine and charcoal gets imported into China. Uh, they're one of the largest they were one of the largest importers. अभी थोड़ा मंगोलिया ने भी बोल दिया भाई हम कोल शोल नहीं देंगे, तो इनको भागना पड़ेगा वापस ऑस्ट्रेलिया जाके कि भाई दे दो यार, दे दो. Because Mongolia has said, by the way, we're not going to give you anything. uh, yes, I am aware, and I mentioned this. It was sent over India, Japan, Vietnam, and Korea in the past. When it flew over India, it was not publicized. Because अब ऐसा है, as I said, it tells you something about their satellite reconnaissance and stuff like that. I may be overstepping the line. So if anybody knows a little better about satellite or anything, please, I would appreciate your inputs on this. You can write to me, you can get in touch with me on Twitter, or those of you on my WhatsApp group or Telegram group can please enlighten me if I've gone wrong in my analysis. Right, not even Taiwan believes it can trust the West against China. Sure, there will be some help, just as the Ukrainians are getting, but nowhere else close to what Ukraine is getting. Ukraine is getting. Why? Because Taiwan is not in Europe. Okay, you're looking at a very, I would say, an interesting point of view, for the lack of a better word. But supplying Taiwan is not that easy as well. There is no land route to Taiwan. I mean, you'll have to get your ships and offload stuff. During time of war, they're sitting ducks, if nothing else. So that's something that we need to look at very carefully. It won't really make military sense, but I know for a fact right now there's a lot of stuff which is going into Taiwan. Some of it is announced, some of it is not. So that's something that we need to kind of understand and remember. Right. Adi, would a Poland bullish on Russia stance not work with the West on anything that is else that is a good template where we are anti-China at the time, so as to be important to them and do the rest we like? Aren't we doing that right now? We are, right? We're doing whatever the hell we feel like. We're buying Russian oil. We've got good relations with them. Stuff is happening, and we are one of the closest partners of the West. So we are doing that, right? It's what it is. Reality is your life. Naveen, countries with nuclear power will not fight with each other. Then what is this hue and cry of China and USA? Will not fight is a bit longish, because the reason why the Soviet Union and the USA did not fight, because of a treaty or the understanding of called MAD, which was known as mutually assured destruction. That if you attack me, you're done. Both ways, mutually assured destruction. Chinese aren't that strong as of now. They'll probably take out a city or two of the states, or 5 cities, 6 cities. Beyond that, no. They'll be done with the kind of retaliatory power that the US have in terms of nuclear weapons and stuff like that. So USA में somewhere down the line they feel that they can fight a conventional war with China. I find it to be fantastical, because आपने उनको बढ़ाया, उसके बाद अभी उनको मारने के चक्कर में हो. Good for us. लगे रहो. India signing major defense deals with America. Also, GE taking permission for transfer technology and manufacturing of jet engines in India. Next, we will see NSA in UK, and suddenly there's a news that even Rishi. Okay, I think this is a two-part thing. Sunak will attend this meeting. What's cooking there? Why all of a sudden is the West interested in India and majorly in defense? Are we getting pulled in Ukraine, Russia like situation, or are we becoming a pawn? साहब ऐसा है, अभी तो आपने बजट निकाला है मोटा चौड़ा, उसके अंदर आपने इंक्रीमेंट भी दी है डिफेंस को. Capital expenditure is also going up, so they're going to be lobbying at the end of it that sale for their countries. Secondly, India centric talks have been there for a while. Right at the start of the war also, everybody visited India. आ जाओ भाई सर, प्लीज हमारे साथ आ जाओ सर, ये आ जाओ सर, वो आ जाओ सर. India sits bang in the center. जिस भी कैंप में इंडिया जाएगा, that camp wins. But I don't think we should sit in any camp. So there's a big difference in that, and the game is very interesting nowadays. Oh, okay. Naveen, thank you so much once again. Perhaps we need to have a separate mental buckets, the narrative bucket and the action bucket, and judge how each country is acting, running a narrative, both important in a different way. Sahib, that is exactly what we've been talking about with Salvatore Barbons, with General Narayan. The issue about narratives is that every country will run it, and the US might run an anti-Indian narrative, but that may be run for a certain purpose, right? The BBC ran this story on Prime Minister Modi, and the next day they said AUKUS G. Somewhere down the line, my first thought was, यार ये AUKUS के लिए घुसाने के लिए प्रेशर थोड़ी डाल रहे हैं कि साहब आप यहाँ घुसो तो हम वो सब बंद करेंगे. I mean, I'm just being out loud. It might not be the it. I don't think is the case, but that's how it is. Now, BBC has a history of doing all this stuff. So there's narratives are narratives at the end of it. We need to fight them with the truth, and that's something that I firmly believe in. So that's not the problem with this entire game is that we can't say for certain that since BBC, for example, ran this particular thing, is the entire UK government behind it. You can't say that for certain. Might be some people are. There's no question about it, but you can't say that for certain. As something that we need to kind of understand very carefully. Don't you think now economics of defeating an opponent is not either conventional war or economic war, but medical war? साहब ऐसा है फॉर अ मोमेंट, एक मिनट के लिए, आई कांट प्रूव इट बट एक मिनट के लिए प्लीज think about a factor that Chinese created this particular virus and leaked it around the world. ठीक है, लैब लीक हो गया, ये हो गया, वो हो गया, जो भी कह लो, चाइना में बना वो लीक हो गया. बायोलॉजिकल वेपन्स का एक बड़ा गंदा ब्लोबैक है. Unless and until your population is immune, you will also get hit. So yeah, let them do it. We'll see. We'll create a vaccine again, no problem. What will happen to the Chinese who don't have good medical facilities is something that is beyond imagination. Should we depend ourselves on increasing our capabilities and strengthen our economy? And I don't trust the West because the West is not reliable as a partner. So your view on it? Absolutely correct, sir. There is no question. And I want to read you something from the Chanakya Niti on this particular answer, which will give you uh, a fair bit of an idea of what I want to say. Yeah, it says, "Na jayasa samane va." Never attack someone more powerful or even someone in matching strength. One should be cautious of addressing one's strength before starting an aggression. Keep postponing any armed conflict till one is ensured of an edge and victory over one's adversary. Don't trust anyone. Prepare it for yourself. At the end of it, they're going to be looking out for their national interest. We look out for ours. Wherever we match together and we kind of blend together, fair enough. Let's work together. Where we don't, hasta la vista, baby. Okay, India's current interests lie with ensuring a strong and independent Russia as a counterweight to both West and China. However, emotions and love have nothing to do with it. Well, yes, to a large extent, but as I absolutely 100% agree with your last statement. Emotions have nothing to do with national interest. We can't, you know, we can't be emotional about our needs and national interest and this and that. It can't be. It has to be pragmatic and practical. Absolutely correct. And there's this, you kind of put the point where it needs to be. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely, Sandeep. I agree with you. India can't trust US or Russia. However, it needs to work with both where there is national interest, mutual interest, and national interest. Saab, we can't even trust China. We need to work with it still. If we need to trade with it, we need to trade with it. I've again done a nice episode. I hope it was nice episode with regards to the Chinese trade and stuff like that, why it is required for India to grow, and if we do cut off suddenly, why India will also suffer as much as China will. So there is national interest must be the forefront of everything, as what Minister Jaishankar has said very, very, very clearly. It's very, very interesting. Alan, you say, would you believe that would Russian tanks, mainly T-72B3s and T-90Ms, would be able to destroy the Western tanks? Would the Challenger M1A1 be logistical nightmares for Ukraine? Second part of the question, hell yeah, that's a jet engine, sir. It's a gas turbine engine. It requires a lot of maintenance and stuff like that. Although this is out of the subject, normally won't take this question, but it was interesting. But as far as tanks are concerned, it's not a tank versus tank thing. Always remember this. The Russians have about 1,800 or 2,000 tanks facing them. And this is not me saying this, is Zelensky saying it himself. Having said that, as I, it's also the tank commander, it's the tank crew, it's the tank training, a lot of things that matter. Of course, the Russians also have the T-14, which is a brand new, ultra modern sort of a tank which has come out. And they've got huge amount. Remember one thing here, the Leopards and the Abrams are pretty much uh, uh, um, Western tanks, right? The Russians are the opposition to the West. Now, when you are an opposition, you would be training to kind of see how you can beat your opponent, correct? So when you get into something like that, the Russians, I'm sure, have know the weak points and this and that and the other. In small numbers, on such a large frontage, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. And that's just me. I'm a novice. I've been reading about it. If you guys want, I'll do a talk with somebody from the armored corps who can give us a little more, uh, uh, you know, a little more into it. Eisen, that's an interesting name. Hindenburg report has to do with something the GOI putting 41,000 crores mega international container project in Andaman Islands. Well, sure, why not? Because that's going to be giving us a lot of things. I personally think it's more to do with the Haifa. It's more to do with your Ambani's links with the Suez Canal and a whole lot of other things. And remember, Ambani is building the counter to ये जो चाइना का एक string of pearls था, जो इंडिया का काउंटर है string of diamonds, वो उसका कंस्ट्रक्शन काफी हद तक अंबानी साहब कर रहे हैं. Right, guys, it's been 1 hour and 17 minutes. I'm going to start bringing this to a close. Uh, you know, right? When will we liberate POK? Isn't it best time for us? No, sir. You can liberate it. I don't believe anything further than that. As long as we don't get the people along with it, it's going to be damn crazy. I don't. I don't think so. I don't think so. Remember one thing, yeah. Pakistan needs to be a hands-off approach. So a lot of people will tell you कि भाई नहीं नहीं पाकिस्तान तोड़ देते हैं, ये कर देते हैं, वो कर देते हैं. ऐसा है साहब. You need to have a hands-off approach. We are not involved. Let them do. They are falling themselves. Let them fall. Let the pieces fall as they may, and we'll see. Right? Oh, thank you. Understanding Kautilya. Well, you know what? Chanakiniti, and of course the Arthashastra as well. So I'm trying to read both. It's going to take me a little time. And let me know your opinion, guys. I want to put these Chanakya Niti ke sutras out in little shorts. If you guys want to see them, let me know. I'll be sure. I'll be happy to do that. Adi, your guests are top notch. I don't know how you do it. Well, I don't either, sir. Put in a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights. I sleep barely about 5 hours a day. I don't know how you do it, but keep it up. Spread your reach to other platforms. I want to, yes, sir, I will. And if you can help me with that, I'll be grateful because, um, um, you know, I'll be grateful. It's a lot of work. I need to stand. And remember one thing: this is not my main job, guys. I don't normally talk about my personal things, but this is not my main job. I also have a day job, so I work 9 10 hours in my day job, and then I come back and do all this stuff. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of blood and sweat. And I said I barely sleep. I sleep about 5 hours a day, and but I love doing this. I love the support that you've given me. Uh, a lot of the involvement of my guests, of my speakers, of the people that I learn from. It's very, very critical. This week is going to be interesting, guys. To close this video is going to be very, very interesting. I'm going to be doing a talk through someone who has countered the Glenn Maxwell theory of the 1962 war. That's going to be an eye-opening episode, guys. Please, please, please find time for that. It's going to be crazy. I'm doing a Russia update, Russia-Ukraine update with Maria Beat. I'm doing an interview with Admiral Anup Singh. Of course, sessions with General Shankar will be on. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get General Narayan this week because he's a little busy. But he did tell me if he gets the time, he will be calling me up, and you know, we'll be trying to do a show together. Apart from that, couple of other shows planned up for which I'll kind of, as soon as they get closed, I'll share details with you. Guys, thank you so much. Before I sign off, like the video, subscribe to the channel. QR code is right here. If you can, please do help out the Dev Talks efforts. You can become members, or you can just say thank you by pressing the button at the bottom. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you got what I was trying to say today. India needs to be cautious. India needs to have its national interest first. And always, always, always with the West, look at the money and you'll get to know what the game is. Thank you so much. Until next time or tomorrow, Jai Hind.